Today we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. People come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly.
Going to be clean, going to be safe again. The President of the United States, Donald John Trump, declaring a public safety emergency in our nation's capital. The Democrats shrug and say, hey, it was worse 2 years ago. Well, that's when Joe Biden was president. Federal law enforcement agencies from across the alphabet soup to be deployed into Washington, D.C., the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF, the FBI, the United States Park Police, a federal uniformed law enforcement agency with a big presence in Washington, D.C. already, and appointing a man who I don't know. Is it Tom Cole? Is that Terry Cole? Terry Cole, who will take over on an interim basis as the overlord of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. He didn't use the word overlord, but Michael and I were laughing here thinking the news media is going to go crazy over his choice of words. They're going to nitpick, and they're going to put individual words in quotation marks, just one word at a time in quotation marks. But the president pointing out the homicide rate alone, and I looked it up, and Newsmax.com has a great story on it. As a matter of fact, law enforcement to increase in D.C. at Trump's direction is the headline. And they got into this a couple of days ago, looking at the numbers, apparently knowing what President Trump was going to say, because this story came out on Thursday. Today is Monday, of course. And they said data estimates from Congress, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, Statista, that's the statistics place, and local government statistics showed that D.C. had the highest rate of homicides among 18 national capitals from 2019 to 2024. That's a 5-year period, half a decade, with D.C. having 41 homicides per 100,000 people. So you have about 700,000 people, so 41 times 7 is the number that we have there, and that's, nearly 300. I think it's 287 homicides. And 41, that's per year. 41 homicides per 100,000, and that's a pretty extraordinary number. The closest to the D.C. record, having the highest number of homicides per 100,000, Montevideo in Uruguay. My best girl and I, we went on vacation to Uruguay a handful of years ago. Had a very nice time. Stayed at a beautiful hotel that was originally built by a drug cartel. Very nice. They had meetings there, and then they sold the hotel to the Four Seasons. It was very nice. Uruguay. So Uruguay, Montevideo, Uruguay, 16 homicides, 16.1 per 100,000. Again, Washington, D.C., 41 per 100,000. Baghdad in Iraq with 15.2 homicides per 100,000. Washington, D.C., 41 homicides per 100,000. And Lagos, I know it looks like Lagos, but it's pronounced Lagos in Nigeria. Lagos, Nigeria, 15 homicides per 100,000. Washington, D.C., 41 homicides per 100,000. Isn't that madness? Now, I played a soundbite from MSDNC with the president of the White House Correspondents Association, trying to racialize everything because he's black, he's radical leftist, he's an America hater, and he said, he's picking on the majority people of color cities, the black and brown cities. Stephen Miller making a thing. You know what? If you gave a flying hoot about black people, then you could go to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, and you would see that if you look at the comparative homicide rates in the United States, white versus black versus Asian versus other, homicide rate, victimization, for white people in the United States is 3.2 per 100,000. Washington, D.C., 41 per 100,000. And that might be in part because, and this again, Bureau of Justice Statistics, the government, and white people, homicide rate of 3.2 homicides per 100,000 in 2023. Homicide rate was higher for black persons, 21.3 per 100,000. Again, 3.2 for white people, 21.3 for African Americans per 100,000. Isn't that amazing? For Asians, Asian Americans, Asians in the United States, 1.4 per 100,000. Again, white people, 3.2, so that's more than twice as high for white people as it is for Asian people. And for black people, 21.3. And in Washington, D.C., 41 per 100,000. That should be, and for how long have I been talking about this? I've been talking about this for years and years, about how this needs to be treated as a crisis. And if these lefties, like this idiot at the White House Correspondents Association, this guy should be yelling about that if you're a responsible adult of any kind. Eugene Daniels needs to be complaining about that and yelling about that. And I honestly, I've been pounding the table about that for years and years now. Nobody in D.C. seems to care very much. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? We have more President Trump from the press conference, and this is a big deal. Crime, homicide, the racial nightmare that the news media buries in a shallow grave with a bag of lime and a shovel. Pretty amazing stuff. President Trump at the White House moments ago.
So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him. Most highly recommended person. And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. Okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke.
The interim federal commissioner, Terry Cole, head of ATF. And here you go, pal. Take over the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. I have friends in the Metropolitan Police Department. I have long had friends in the Metropolitan Police Department, overwhelmingly staffed by great cops and often understaffed. And the Democrats want to defund so they can fund the Latin American cartels and child sex traffickers, because the Democrats are not on the side of civilization.
This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police, or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the streets. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're going to have National Guard. But Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed.
We will bring in the military if needed. The National Guard already being called up, hundreds of National Guard. The Washington, D.C. National Guard are under the control of the President of the United States because Washington, D.C. is a federal district. This whole home rule experiment was not so great. Now, I've been sharing with you the numbers from the Bureau of Justice Statistics on homicides in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, versus national capitals around the world. And we do not fare very well in that regard. And the numbers I've been sharing are from 2023. And the Democrats are bragging, crime's been going down the last 2 years. There was a spike and a peak in 2023. And now the numbers from 2024, thanks to Kevin Tober passing him along per 100,000. Hey, we were down in 2024 from 41 homicides per 100,000 down to the low 27.54 per 100,000, which is still more than Baghdad and Lagos, Nigeria, and capital after capital. But our Democrat Party. And then, you know what's going to happen? They're going to attack, I'm sure they're already doing it, on the social media of the Democrat Party media outlets, attacking President Trump. Again, they'll single out a word they don't like or a turn of phrase they don't like, and they will miss the big picture. They'll ignore it completely. Well, what about the disparity in homicides in Washington versus Baghdad, for example? And I'll say, well, you know, here's what liberals will say. Well, the numbers out of Baghdad aren't very reliable. I'll bet you $1 we're going to have a liberal say that within a minute of this press conference wrapping up. And we still got to wait for Brian's second question. He thinks it's going to be a big one.
They'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks to get them the hell off the street, maybe get them out of the country, because a lot of them came into our country illegally. They shouldn't have been allowed in. They come from Venezuela. They come from all over the world. We're going to get them the hell out. They won't be here long. But some of these people, a lot of them, are homegrown criminals. And these are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the D.C. streets this weekend. They were rough and tough. But we're rougher and tougher.
I got to tell you, Kevin passed along the homicide rates, the murder rates for 2024. And listen to this. For national capitals. For Washington, D.C., again, it was 41 per 100,000 in 2023. Then they're excited down to 27.54 homicides per 100,000 in 2024. In London, 1.1 homicide per 100,000 people. 1.1. Delhi in India, the empire, 1.49, call it 1.5 homicides. Washington, D.C., 27.5. That should be a big deal. Call me crazy, huh? Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Sonny, calling from Chicago, Illinois. Santino, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris Plant. My pleasure again to speak to you. Yeah, I heard on the weekend on Meet the Press, Pritzker, saying that these guys from Texas that are leaving the state to come to Illinois for protection or whatever it is they're coming here for, saying that they're so brave and they're heroes or whatever, which is the total opposite of what they are. In my opinion, they're cowards. They really cannot decide what to do about their party and the policies that they run away from constantly, just like Pritzker does. And Pritzker, again, will not work with the people of Chicago, the Mayor Johnson, and help this city try and recover from the chaos that's going on. Just last night, there was, on the west side of Chicago, shootings within 3 blocks related from each other. I think there was 7, 8, 9 people shot, and one 15-year-old was shot multiple times, but yet Pritzker doesn't make a peep about what's going on here or in the state, which is kind of shameful. He should really be ashamed of himself. And speaking against the president that he's cheating on his wife and he cheats at golf, he's always trying to distract from what he is doing himself for this state.
That's right. And he used the word distraction yesterday. It's one of the Democrats' favorite words. Everything is a distraction. No, the Kennedy assassination was just a distraction. The LBJ getting us in the Vietnam War up to our eyeballs, just a distraction. Everything's just a distraction. They love the word distraction. And Pritzker used the word yesterday on Meet the Press, too, saying what's going on in Texas. Yeah, and you're right. He calls them brave and he calls them heroes for fleeing Texas.
I just want to thank you for bringing this out and keeping the strong truth out there.
Well, the truth counts, Sonny, doesn't it? We're common sense people. We're from America, you and me. We're from the Midwest, Chicago, Illinois, where the truth, I hope, is still valued, not by Democrats, sadly, tragically. Sonny, thank you very much. Great call. You're right. And I've got some Pritzker I hope to get to. The clock is ticking, but I hope to get to some of circumference on his appearances on television yesterday. You know, big wireless, the big cell phone companies, they're pulling one over on all of us. It's time to make the switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I made the switch. I get the same fast, reliable, nationwide, big wireless coverage without the big wireless costs at the end of every month. It's not just about saving money on my bill at the end of the month, although that matters. It's about not being used and abused by the big cell phone companies. Do you even know how much data you use every month? Probably not. Most people 50 years old and older use less than 8 gigs of data a month, but if you're 20, you might use 10 times that. Big wireless people shove you into an unlimited plan because they're redistributing your monthly bill to cover the costs of 20-year-olds who use all that data that you don't use. So if you're not using all that data, you're the one being used. I had enough of that stuff and went with Consumer Cellular. Listen, they set me up with a service and a great phone, and it's incredibly easy to make the switch. You speak to an actual human being on the phone, not a robot, based right here in the United States, not the Philippines, real human beings. So, you know, they're helpful. They're talking to you. They're on with you. It only takes about 20 minutes. Going to save you a lot of cash and a lot of hassle. Give them a call today. Ask all the questions you have at 1-800-760-0702. That's 800-760-0702. Yes, indeed. All right, we've got President Trump at the White House with much of his cabinet. Tell you about crime and mayhem and pandemonium, and the news media will be attacking it all very soon. So stay right there. Hey, we still haven't gotten to the Texas debacle, and one of our brilliant callers, Sonny from Chicago, I called him Santino, you know, like Sonny Corleone. He was Santino Corleone. Sonny knows that. But the Democrats that have fled Texas as part of their insurrection, and it is an insurrection what the Democrats are doing. They're heroic, though, because the Democrats are, you know, criminals. I think criminals is the word I was searching for there. But I've got some update for you on that and the rhetoric of the Democrats. Right, now, the Democrats in Texas are engaged in what is commonly referred to as an insurrection. And that's not a sexual reference, but the Democrats that fled Texas to gum up the works, let's say. I'll try to keep it clean. What they're engaged in is clearly an insurrection, and it's okay when they do it, of course, because they're Democrats. And you know how that works. Were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. An insurrection, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. Now, the established government in this case is the state of the Republic of Texas and the Republican-controlled State House and State Senate and Governor's Mansion. They have all three, and when Democrats have all three, whether it's Massachusetts or Illinois or California, they gerrymander the hell out of the state, and they've been doing it forever, and crush the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And then they say, oh, look, we've got, and the New York Times and 60 Minutes never do a story on the way that the Democrats gerrymander their states when they have control of the big three. and in order to dominate politics in Washington. But if Texas says, hey, we're going to gerrymander the state, we're going to redistrict the state, and the Democrats start pounding their machetes on the podium like third world banana republic hacks like Gavin Newsom and of course, the corpulent Mr. Pritzker, worth $3.7 billion. I looked up his net worth today. $3.7 billion, all inherited, never really earned a living at all. $3.7 billion that his father and his grandfather made, the Hyatt hotel chain, the Pritzker family. And and I said to Michael, you know, that 0.7 is $700 million. That's just the 0.7. And there's $3 billion before that. And that's all his, because he inherited that $3.7 billion. That's a good job, isn't it? Man, that's pretty good. All right, let's get to the audio, because Texas Governor Greg Abbott, one of the good guys, not one of the bad guys, one of the good guys. And what did that idiot Democrat calls him? Hot Wheels. The Jasmine Crockett, the Democrat from Texas. And she calls him Hot Wheels because he's wheelchair-bound, having been paralyzed from the waist down after being crushed by a tree in kind of a storm. Governor Greg Abbott, and he was on Meet the Press. He was on this one was Fox News Sunday. He was on a couple of different shows yesterday. Governor Greg Abbott on the Democrats fleeing the state of Texas in an act of insurrection.
I'm authorized to call a special session every 30 days. It lasts 30 days. And as soon as this one is over, I'm going to call another one, then another one, then another one, then another one. If they show back up in the state of Texas, they will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. Now, if they want to evade that arrest, they're going to have to stay outside of the state of Texas for literally years.
For literally years. And he's not kidding. And he is out there, and he's doing a good job, I think. He was on Fox News yesterday. He was on NBC Face the Meat yesterday, and this and that. And again, an insurrection is an act or instance of revolting. Boy, are they revolting. Your Majesty, the peasants are revolting. You're telling me they stink on ice.
I've come on the most urgent of business. It is said that the people are revolting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
Yeah, it's got to get on time. I didn't know Michael had that at the ready, but the great Mel Brooks, History of the World, Part 1, wonderful stuff. The people are revolting. You're telling me they stink on ice. And the Democrats are revolting. You're telling me they against civil authority or an established government. And if they don't like the government, then they just pretend it doesn't exist. They're like children, but violent, dangerous mobs of children, and they're all grown up. And they have security details and armored limousines. The Democrat governor of the state of New York, which has also been gerrymandered within an inch of its life, was on Face the Meat yesterday, Meet the Press, on NBC Fake News. And listen to this grandiose, haughty, lofty, phony rhetoric from Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul in New York.
I'm not going to let our democracy be eroded away because there's a blatant power grab to maintain power in our nation's capital. This is what I call a legal insurrection.
This is what she calls a legal insurrection. It's a legal insurrection. It is an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. No, it's the opposite of an insurrection. The Democrats fleeing the state because they're not in the majority in the state house and the state senate. That is an insurrection, a legal insurrection. But the Republicans in control of both houses and the governor's mansion, there's no, it's the opposite. You filthy idiot. And, of course, does Kristen Welker say, well, actually, Governor, that wouldn't be an insurrection. You might say that the Democrats fleeing would be an act or instance of revolting against the civil authority or an established government. But the Republicans in Texas are the established government, and they are because they were voted into office, along with the Democrats who were in the state house and the state senate, who fled the state in an actual act of insurrection, whether it's legal or not. And then Kristen Welker never asked. She asked one follow-up question yesterday and was getting all the credit in the world, like she's a little girl who needs to be patted on the head. Oh, you asked an actual question. That was amazing. You shocked us all. NBC faced the meat. Fake news, Kristen Welker, and they brought on Circumference from Illinois, the $3.7 billion governor, J.B. Pritzker.
I do want to look at the map of Illinois. Let's take a look at this. Despite President Trump winning 44% of the statewide vote in 2024, Republicans hold only 3 of Illinois' 17 districts. These districts seem to be designed to maximize Democratic advantage. What do you say to those who argue that it's hypocritical for you to criticize Texas for partisanship when your state also drew maps to boost your party's standing?
What an amazing question. It's the most obvious of obvious questions. In fact, so obvious that even Stephen Colbert asked J.B. Pritzker about it the other night on his Late Night for Now television show. And so, wait a minute. In Illinois, in your state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln, J.B. Pritzker, where you bought the governor's mansion with your grandfather's money, President Trump got 44% of the vote. But of 17 House seats, Republicans only have 3. Shouldn't they have 44% of the seats that the House of Representatives has from Illinois? No, only 3 of 17. And see, she didn't explain that Pritzker and the Democrats, when they discovered that they had lost population because sane people are fleeing the taxes and the thick government stench in the state of Illinois, she should have said and should have followed up, which she didn't, with, well, wait a minute. 44% of the vote in the state of Illinois went to President Trump, but they have only 3 out of 17 seats in the House of Representatives. You just redistricted, saying, well, we lost so many citizens from Illinois, so much population, that we had to downscale. They lost a seat in the House of Representatives. So it gave the Democrats an excuse to reconfigure the state, and that Stephen Colbert was making fun of the ridiculous shape of some of these districts that have been drawn. And the Democrats actually gained 1 seat, and Republicans lost 2 seats. The Republicans had 5 seats in the House of Representatives from Illinois, and the Democrats, instead of when they lost population in the state of Illinois, the Democrats gained a seat in the House of Representatives, and the Republicans lost 2 seats in the House of Representatives because their third world banana boat sidewalk expletive deleted. I wouldn't want to insult prostitutes by comparing street prostitutes to the Democrat Party. So that was her big moment, and that was being tweeted out all over the place. Oh, look, Kristen Welker actually asked Fat Boy Pritzker a question about the gerrymandering, but that was really the end of it. And then go to Pritzker, who's allowed to filibuster until she just changes the subject.
Well, remember that what Texas is trying to do is, again, violate the Voting Rights Act. We didn't. We held public hearings, legislative hearings. People attended them. They spoke out. There was a map that was put out. There were actually changes made to the map, and a map was passed. And it was done at the end of the census, the decennial census. So that's how it's done in this country.
Decennial, pretty big word for a pretty big guy. Now, here's the ridiculous thing that Kristen Welker is not bright enough, not wise enough, not learned enough to ask at that moment in time. Because the response to that is, well, Governor, the Republicans in the House and Senate are trying to have public hearings, but the Democrats are engaged in an insurrection and they've fled the state so that there is no quorum in order to have those public hearings, which is exactly what they're trying to do, but are being sabotaged by your gang of miscreant criminals who are mostly transgender. I just threw in the mostly transgender thing at the end. Isn't that amazing? Kristen Welker on the map, already had the map up because it's the Stephen Colbert map that they're making fun of. And they had to acknowledge that everybody knows already what the Democrats have done in Illinois. So here comes the Pulitzer Prize-winning Kristen Welker.
Well, look, sticking on your state's map, every major group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
And you did it first.
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction.
What? That's a non-response. And she did not nail him, although it would be very easy to nail him on this. And I certainly would have nailed him, but I pay attention. I follow the news. They don't follow the news. And there are 10 different ways to hoist him on what he's saying. And my response was actually much better, that the reason they're not having public hearings is because the Democrats fled the state. And you're calling them the heroes when they're the ones engaged in the insurrectionist behavior. They're the ones preventing the public hearings from taking place, which is exactly what the Republicans who are in charge in the State House and the State Senate are trying to do. Pritzker.
The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the President of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake.
The old democracy is at stake. Well, the Democrats fled democracy, sabotaged the proper function of the state government in Texas because they had enough power to sabotage, to blow up democracy, to engage in insurrectionist conduct, and for you to sit here in front of God and everyone and the whole country on national television and say that they're a threat to democracy and that you guys had public hearings on this when that's what the Democrats are preventing, the Democrats that are hiding out in your state. Isn't that amazing? Kristen Welker and Pritzker, hey, you're really rich. Maybe you'd like to buy me dinner with some of the $3.7 billion that you inherited.
All right. Well, I want to talk about the future now of your party. You're one of the leaders of the Democratic Party. You are also a billionaire. Some in your party are openly questioning whether billionaires such as yourself should exist at all, Governor. Just listen to what Zohran Mamdani, New York City's Democratic nominee for mayor, told me recently. Take a look.
You shouldn't exist.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
How do you get rid of
Governor, is that the kind of message that Democrats should be embracing?
Look, how much money you have doesn't determine what your values are. And I'm a Democrat because I believe that everyone deserves health care. So it does not matter what your income level is. What matters is what your values are, and that's what makes me a Democrat.
Well, you should pay for everybody's health care then, until your $3.7 billion is gone. And, of course, the natural question to the communist jihadi is, you don't think billionaires should exist. How would you eliminate them? How would you get rid of billionaires? What would you do to create a better world where there are no billionaires like J.B. Pritzker? But these questions are never asked. It's good to be a Democrat. You go on these shows and you're fluffed, like a pillow. Or like where is that? San Fernando Valley, wherever that is. The Democrats. Boy, it's good to be a Democrat. The fix is in everywhere you go. It's in for you, Democrat. Here's a communist said there shouldn't be billionaires. He's going to be the Democrat mayor of New York City. Well, my values, I paid extra for my values. You know how much my values cost me? Get out of here.
Everyone will love my second question today that I'm going to ask you. You know what? Everybody will love it.
Now, that was what I told you about earlier. We had a microphone in the briefing room before, the White House briefing room, before President Trump came out with most of his cabinet. And And that was a guy, I think his name is Brian, a reporter named Brian, and he seems like a jovial sort. And he was yelling at everybody, I think you're going to love my second question. So Michael and I were curious, because we're naturally curious people, wonder what Brian's second question will be. And he eventually got to it. President Trump had gone through a lot of serious business, and then Brian got to ask his question. And the question, President Trump is building with his own money and money being donated a grand ballroom to attach to the White House. So they have a big ballroom instead of the little East Room by comparison. Well, Brian, the reporter, has a new idea about what should also be built at the White House.
Brian, go ahead.
My question is this. You're building the big, beautiful ballroom. Yeah. Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room, updated technology, more seats?
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. So no, I don't want to make life comfortable.
I don't want you to be comfortable. I don't want to make life comfortable. I don't want you to be comfortable. That's pretty good stuff. Fun stuff. And interestingly, they actually all laughed, which is a change in tone, I would say. Still a lot of smug people grimacing and smugly smirking in the White House briefing room. It's not a giant briefing room. It is a fairly, I'm sure you've all been in there. I think everybody's been in the White House briefing room, right? Yeah, I'm kidding. Not everybody's been, but it's not that big. It's a little, Jasmine has. She's been in there. But it's not that huge, right? It's kind of cramped, and there are a lot of people, and it's a small space. And it was built over the indoor swimming pool beneath the seats where the reporters sit, and for that matter, where the podium is at the front of the room. It's now the James Brady briefing room. James Brady was shot in the head the day that Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981 at the Washington Hilton Hotel. It's named for James Brady. He survived, but barely. And they put the briefing room over the top of the indoor swimming pool, where John F. Kennedy used to bring women when nobody was looking, sometimes two at a time, because he needed a little help. He had back problems, he little help getting in and out of the pool. And the swimming pool's still under there. There's just a bunch of cables run through it right now for TV people.